Hey there, welcome to the Schwowin's Nest. My name is Sandra. Thanks for joining me today. Today is all about wood blocks and how you can repurpose them to make some fast cash. I've got all of these scraps all the time because I love to work with wood and I never throw anything away. I've started by putting one coat of black latex or acrylic paint. It really doesn't matter, but you don't need to use chalk paint for this. Then I'm going to put a couple of coats of white right on top of that. The first way is to just print off your design onto some tissue paper. I do this a lot. I love this method, but I'm going to attach it doing something different that I've not tried before. If you're interested in learning how to work with tissue paper in your printer, I've got a full tutorial listed down in my description box. I just use Google Drawing to put my backgrounds and my text together, and then I just print it off. So this one's going to fit really nicely on this long block. I've seen the cling wrap method of attaching things to projects from a few YouTubers, so I thought I'd give it a try and show you what I think of it. So I'm just pulling off a little piece of the cling wrap and I'm going to lay it over the block. I'm going to trim off any of the excess. I just want enough to make sure that I cover the top of the block completely. The next step is to take a piece of parchment paper and lay it on top because you don't want your iron or your heat press to get sticky with all of that cling wrap. I'm using a little mini heat press from Hiipoo, and I'll have more information on that in a little bit. But you can also use your iron just set to the highest setting, and then you can go ahead and smooth this out. You want to make sure that you're getting all around the corners and the edges so everything adheres down onto the block really well. Take a look at it every once in a while and pull up the cling wrap around the edges just to make sure that your design is down. I noticed that there was a little bit lifting up still on the corners, so I'm going to just put the parchment back down and go over it one more time with my heat press. Once it's had a chance to cool down, I just take some sandpaper and very gently go around all of the outside edges to make sure that all of the excess cling wrap is pulled off. It's really simple to do, and this is such a neat way of adding some really pretty designs to any project that you want to do. To make the block look a little bit more rustic, I'm using the sanding block and going over every corner and edge, bringing out some of that black paint underneath. Not a ton of it, and some of it was a little bit too rough and it went down to the wood, but that's nice too. Then you've got a few different textures on all of the edges of your block. You can leave it like this, just really beautiful and plain and simple, or you can embellish it with ribbons and florals. I'll show you that a little bit later. Let me tell you a little bit about this mini heat press. Hiipoo sent this to me to try out, and I just love it. It's got this sweet little color to it. I love that little crafty mint green. To turn it on, you just hold the power button, and each time you want to switch the heat settings, you just press the button again, and you can see the light flashing the color. There's 3 different settings on here. There's a blue one, a green one, and a purple one, and the purple one is the hottest. So you can just use whatever setting you need for your project. For these blocks that I used with the cling wrap and the tissue paper, I just used it on the lowest heat setting and it worked really great. The Hiipoo Mini Heat Press comes with its own base and it's really easy to use. As you can see here, it's just basically a small little iron. So if you only have one iron in your house and you don't want to use that for crafting, this is an awesome investment. The second way that I'm going to show you how to transfer graphics onto a wood block or any type of project is using a Mod Podge reverse graphic method. So what I did was take my design and I reversed the text so it's reading backwards. I'm going to trim off all of the edges and then apply some Mod Podge to my block and to my paper. Then you lay the paper face down onto the block and smooth it out a lot. Just take your time. If you have a brayer, that works good. I just used my hands and I just smoothed it out until it was completely free of any bubbles or wrinkles. Then you set it aside to dry for 24 hours. This is the important part. So I use an inkjet printer. If you have a laserjet printer, this process works much better. I learned this process from Deidre from Our Upcycled Life, and I will have a link to her channel and her specific video for this down in my description box. If you haven't seen her channel, she does some amazing things, so make sure you go check her out too. So this is the next day. It's completely dry. I'm taking just a little bit of a water bottle and spritzing on some water, spreading it out to make sure that it gets all of the paper moist. Then I just started peeling off some of the layers, and you can do this or you can just start rubbing it with your fingers, but I just thought this might be a little bit easier to get started so I wouldn't have quite so many layers to rub off. But then you're going to see me start just kind of rubbing it with my fingers, and here we go. And it just starts to pull up all of the paper. And it does take a little bit of time to do this method, but I think it's really worth it. With an inkjet printer, you do lose some of your transfer. It doesn't go all the way onto your design, especially with some of the color. But you guys know me, I'm a rustic person and it was a little faded and old looking, and I really loved how it turned out. Number three is just using Mod Podge. You've seen it done over and over again. A layer of Mod Podge on the block and then adding your graphic right on top. Now, with these graphics, I'll have as many as I can available on my website, which is linked down in my description box. You go to the free printables area. If you don't have an account yet, you just need to create a free account, log back in, and you'll have access to all of my printables. I think I have tons and tons of them there, all for different seasons, for Christmas, for fall, and then just some regular ones as well. So now I'm just pressing down the paper onto the Mod Podge just to make sure that there aren't any bubbles, and I'm going to continue on with the rest of these blocks. Once the Mod Podge has completely dried, I'm taking my sanding block, getting rid of any of the excess paper, and then I'll go around all of the edges and the corners to make sure I bring out some of that black paint and even a little bit of the wood grain below. Number four is using my Hiipoo mini heat press again. I've just cut out a little piece of this flour sack tea towel, and I'm just going to iron it, get it nice and warm and ready for my heat transfer vinyl. Now, this is a graphic that came straight from Cricut Design Space, so I won't be able to share this one, but it's easy to make something similar, and I have so many different types of printables on my website that you'll be able to use instead of this one. So now I've got my heat press set to the green setting, which is the degrees that are suitable for heat transfer vinyl. And I'm going to go over it and just make sure that it's all attached really well. Peel up a little bit of the corner to see if everything has stuck properly, and it was perfect. I love this little mini heat press for little jobs like this. It's absolutely the best. I did a second one with the heat transfer vinyl. This is a little piece of an apron that I picked up at my dollar store. I think the apron was like $3.50, but it had like barbecue designs on it and stuff. So I just took off the little piece. I just thought this red and white buffalo check was perfect. I've got the little word gather with my heat transfer vinyl, and again using the Hiipoo mini heat press to get that stuck on. To get these fabric pieces attached to my block, I'm just going to use a little dot of hot glue in each of the corners. Then to make it look a little bit more fun, I'm going to add some of these little furniture tacks, and that will just make it look like they've been tacked down just with those and gives it a little bit more character too. Number 5 is using vinyl. So I do have an Explore 3 from Cricut, and I have a Joy, which is awesome for traveling. When I go to my cottage, I can just take that little guy with me and do my YouTube videos there. So what I'm doing here is just getting it off the backing paper. Sometimes it can be a little tricky. Take your time and just use your finger or your squeegee tool to make sure that it's all adhered to the transfer tape. And I do like to go back and forth as you see me doing here. And sometimes that helps just to make sure that you can get everything off really well. Then I'm just going to attach it to my block. I don't have to do any heat or anything like that. I'm just going to center it, press it down, and then peel off the transfer tape. You guys, I'm sure, have seen lots of people use Cricut. It is a fantastic tool to use, and I just love both of mine. Number 5 is using window clings. Look at this beautiful lavender strip that I found at my local dollar store. I'm going to just trim as much of the edge as I can, and then just using Mod Podge, I'm just going to transfer it to the block. And this is probably the easiest of all of these, literally just taking a graphic and gluing it on. You could even use a glue stick if you wanted to. Just smooth it out, making sure there aren't any extra bubbles, and let it dry completely before you do anything else with it. Number 6 and 7 kind of go together, but I decided to use some of these wood letters that I picked up at the dollar store, and I believe they're available at Dollar Tree as well. I painted them black, and now I'm just going to hot glue them right onto the block, and I think this turns out really pretty. Number 8 is using stencils. I've got this one that says homemade on it. These came from the Dollar Tree, and they're the screen print sort of stencils. They've got a sticky backing, which is really great. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to cut out that interior circle because I don't want the word handmade. You can just trim it off by just cutting all of the little places where it's attached. I wish my Dollar Tree had more designs of these stencils. We are very limited here in Canada with our Dollar Tree. I'm very jealous of those of you who live in the United States and have really great Dollar Trees. Anyway, I'm just going to press this down, and then I'm going to use some sage colored paint and a makeup sponge, and I'm just going to stencil the outside area. So just the circle area is what I'm looking for. Then I decided to use another color for the inside. I just thought it would be sweet to have a two-tone green kind of color on here. So that's what I'm doing now. Be very gentle and go slow when you're pulling these off because they can tear really easily. But look at that beautiful design. This is a really fun one, and it's probably one of my favorites of this video. Number 9 is using rub-on transfers. Now, the Dollar Tree does carry some, and that's where this one came from. A viewer sent them to me a while ago. You know who you are. Thank you so much because I just love being able to use these. My Dollar Tree, of course, doesn't carry them, but you can find rub-on transfers on Amazon, and there's so many different options out there. So just make sure you check out everything. If I can find some inexpensive rub-on transfers on Amazon, I'll link them down in my description box. It's so easy to use these rub-on transfers on any surface, and if some of it doesn't go down all the way, you can definitely just lay it back down and try again. Look at how pretty this turned out. Number 10 is using stencils again, but this time using letters. And instead of painting them, sometimes I just like to trace them with a pencil and then use one of my markers to fill them in. Sometimes I just get bleeding no matter what I try to do, and I just wanted these to be nice and clean. So this is an option for you. If you aren't that great of a stenciler with paint, just go ahead and trace out the letters and fill them in. You could use any type of marker for this, but I really enjoy using these paint pens from Craftsmart. I've also used some of the Sharpie brand, and all I'm doing here is just coloring in. For number 11, I am using rub-on transfers one more time, but this time I'm putting them on fabric. Did you know you could do that? I've seen a few YouTubers do that with the IOD and Prima transfers. I thought I would give it a try with the Dollar Tree transfers. And you know what? I needed a lot of elbow grease. I am putting this on some drop cloth, but it did turn out. So I'm just really going to town rubbing this with the end of my marker. I tried all sorts of different things, my scissors, you name it. It has to be something fairly sharp but not sharp enough that it's going to go through the plastic. So with a little bit of struggling at first, but then I was able to get the design on here and I was so excited to know that this works. I added some additional florals from the Dollar Tree rub-on transfers, and then I just glued it onto the wood block. And this turned out so cute. Just opens up a whole bunch of possibilities when you can get these rub-on transfers to work on different types of materials. Number 12 is using rubber stamps. If you've done some scrapbooking or you've got some stamps hanging around, don't forget about using those rubber stamps. I'm just using some black ink that I also got at a dollar store, so nothing too expensive. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of rock it a little bit. It doesn't turn out very dark on this fabric, but that's okay. A little faded look is good too. So all of these block designs would look really good on their own, but I wanted to add a few more details. So I'm adding a little bit of buffalo check or gingham ribbon to this one block. I'm just going to glue it around the outsides of it and then just cut off what I don't need, making sure that it's attached at the bottom as well. I'm going to add some greenery, some little floral stems, and I'm just going to glue those onto the top. I just think it's the details that make things look a little bit more high end. Even though these are scrap wood blocks, they look like something that you would possibly be able to purchase at a store. So I'm going to be gluing some of the stuff just on the one corner. I think making it look a little off center is also something that makes it look a little bit more high end, but I do put some of the florals and greenery in the center depending on the block style. In my excitement to get all of these completed and ready for the craft show, I totally forgot to take some proper pictures. So here's just a few so you can see how I did with the embellishments, a little bit of ribbon, some greenery, and some florals. I also hope that you got inspired by this video to try out some of these new techniques. They are really cost effective and user friendly. So definitely let me know in the comments if you're going to try some of these. If you liked today's video, please give me a thumbs up. That really gets me noticed more on YouTube and it helps my channel grow. If you haven't already subscribed, I would love it if you could hit that red button and don't forget to click the notification bell so you don't miss out on anything else I have to share. Have a great day.